whatever is going on in the world. It's important that we be able to bring the Bible to bear on that and teach our children about that as well. And one of my questions was, well, who has the authority to define marriage? Who has the authority to define marriage? Is it the Supreme Court? Is it the Congress? Is it the states? Is it the individual? And I would say that the answer to all of those is no. It's God who has the authority to define marriage. Because marriage, like anything, the meaning is tied to its origin. We find the origin of marriage in the book of Genesis, where God made one man and one woman for each other, and the family unit was born there in the very beginning chapters of Genesis. The family is the first and most fundamental institution which God ordained in Scripture. And those who want to define marriage another way are actually inserting their will, their thinking, their desires above God's. It was God who designed marriage, and so it is God who has the authority to define marriage, and He's done that for us in the Scriptures. There's one man and one woman. Kind of emphasizes the importance of the book of Genesis. Sometimes I hear, don't worry about Genesis, or it's not important, or it's secondary importance. Well, this week we've seen how a correct understanding of Genesis is very important, because if you reject what God has said right there in the very first pages of the Bible, you could end up with a belief about marriage that is contrary to the Bible, and you actually take your thoughts and your ideas and put them ahead of what God has said. And so we don't want to do that. We certainly don't want to do it on purpose. We don't want to do it by accident either. But who has the authority to define marriage? It's God. And we either come into agreement with that, or we stand against God. So the other thing that comes to my mind is I hear it a lot in arguments for gay marriage, is that, well, these gay couples are in a loving relationship. And you've all heard that, right? And isn't that the important thing? Well, according to the Bible, are gay couples in a loving relationship? I would suggest they are not. It kind of lies at the heart of the arguments to accept homosexuality, because, well, they're in a loving relationship, and isn't that what's important? It really diverts the attention by redefining love. They're diverting attention from the acceptance of sin to the acceptance of love. Doesn't love sound a whole lot better than talking about sin? Well, how does the Bible describe homosexuality? Well, in Romans, it talks about it as a depraved mind, dishonorable passions, lust. Now, when I say those words, is the first thing that comes to your mind love? No, of course not. But that's how the Bible describes that type of activity. But the advocates on the other side are saying, no, it's love. Well, the Bible describes it as, like I said, depraved mind, dishonorable passions, lust. It never describes homosexual activity in terms of love. And so, that's one of the schemes of the devil, to redefine terms in a way that God doesn't. He wants you to question, is that really? is that really wrong? You know, is that really what God said? Isn't that how he worked in the beginning in the garden? Did God really say, don't take of that tree? You must have misunderstood, because if you do, you'll be wise as God. And you'll, isn't that a good thing? Don't you want that? And then all of a sudden, now here, take. So that's, the schemes of the devil haven't really changed very much. They're pretty effective, but he's also somewhat predictable. And one of the ways that he tries to subvert God's plans is by redefining terms like love. And if he can get people to think that something is love when God is saying it's not, then he's opened the door to activities that are not pleasing to God. So I hear those types of things a lot, and I thought, since it's in the news, and you may be encountering conversations, that it's a good idea to talk about how we can bring the Bible to bear on our lives. And so God has the authority to define marriage. He's done so in the Scriptures and Genesis, and Jesus even confirmed that in the Gospels. And God does not define homosexual activity in terms of love. He describes it quite the opposite. In Romans, again, a depraved mind, lust, and dishonorable passions. So we need to keep those things in mind when conversations come up, and understand and recognize that that's a lie of the devil. And if we can recognize something as a lie of the devil, that's going to help us stand firm and resist the devil and really become the overcomers that the New Testament talks about. But if we accept the devil's lie, then we've opened the door to his philosophies and his schemes and the activities that he would rather have us involved with. So, just my 2 cents on the current events. Any questions or comments about that?